Good evening. We're calling this meeting to order at 5:02. I want to acknowledge our meeting status. Members of the public may directly address the board by attending in-person meetings and submitting a public comment card. The board will not take public comment through the online platform and does not guarantee online streaming should that platform malfunction for any reason. Members of the public are encouraged to share their thoughts and concerns with our board president, Maddie Cloud at mcloud@k12.org if they're not able to attend in person. All right, I need a motion to adopt and approve the agenda.
I'll move to adopt and approve the agenda. I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Comment from the public on closed session items? Seeing none, we are adjourning to closed session. No, you're doing it in there.
No, you're good.
You're good.
Okay, fine. I like it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. I am calling this meeting to order tonight at 6:02. Hello, everyone. A new year. Okay, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. The next on the agenda had an appeal of a decision, and it was denied on a 5-0 vote. And now we're going to continue with a very special swearing in of our new student board members. And they're over here. We have 4 this year because we have an alternate. First time. Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay, so Anna Maria
Okay. Okay. Congratulations on being elected to serve as a student board member to represent your school name, Petaluma High School. Under Government Section 1360 and Article 20 of the state constitution, by the power vested in me from the state of California and the full PCS Board of Education, please repeat after me. Anna Maria Miranda. I, Anna Maria Miranda. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States, true faith and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, mental reservation, purpose or evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Yay!
All right. Congratulations on being elected to serve as a student board member to represent your school name, Casa Grande High School. Under Government Section 1380 and Article 20 of the state constitution, by the power vested in me from the state of California and the full PCS Board of Education, please repeat after me. I, Chloe Herdman, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, we have Sabrina. Congratulations on being elected to serve as a student board member to represent alternative schools. Under Government Section 1360 and Article 20 of the state constitution, by the power vested in me from the state of California and the full PCS Board of Education, please repeat after me. I, your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of California. That I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations. Thank you so much to our student board members. We also this year have an alternate student board member that you will probably meet later on in the year. And I just want to just commend all of our student board members. It's going to be a big commitment that they're taking on, and we are just so excited to hear their voices and have them represent students, because we know that is why we are all here. Our student board members went through an extensive training and they are ready to go tonight. So thank you so much.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. All right, now we have the launching of the 26-27 school year, and we have a presentation or just a video. This is going to be how our year kind of started.
All right, we're going to start with a short video and then I will give some comments. Thank you. So big thank you to Bree Weaver over here, who put together the video and showed all of her amazing skills. So hopefully, if you got one thing out of this video, it's the joy that is just emanating across our schools. And so we're so excited to have started with our traditional schools last week, and then our year-round schools are already several weeks in, and they are just off to such a great start. And really, it's that that joy and that uniqueness of each of our campuses that is really shining through. I have had a chance to visit most of our schools in the past several weeks, and myself and the district office team, our cabinet, and all of us are really trying to be out there and be visible, learning as much as we can around any of the needs that are popping up at our schools, and just also sharing in all of that excitement that's happening in our classrooms every day. So really excited about that. Before school started, we had an opportunity to all be together as a staff. And so we had a series of professional development days. We had our time with just our site leadership teams, and then we had our time with all of our PCS staff, and it was just such a great experience to all be together. A highlight from that, based on the feedback that we got, our focus, our district focus this year is really around doing additional support and focus for our multilingual learners and our students with disabilities. And so when we had our time as an entire staff, the way that we started and digging into that is really hearing directly from our students. And so we had a student panel that Assistant Superintendent Kirsten Grimm worked really hard on. And so we heard directly from the voices of our students, of specifically our multilingual students, and they shared with hundreds of people in a intimidating space, all about what their experience in PCS has been like, some of the highlights. They shared some of the struggles, some of the advice and things that they would want staff to know so that we can continue to learn from their experiences. And so it was just really amazing for us to have that opportunity to really get grounded in the student experience. And those students did such an incredible job. I know President Cloud was able to see and be with us, which was great. And then in the afternoon, it was more of a hybrid format. And so sites had different, depending on your role, there was different trainings that were offered. And then our site teams were back at sites, digging more into actually the data around what are the outcomes that we're striving for this year, looking at their school-specific data. And then we will be continuing on that path. After the professional development, we received a lot of feedback, which is so great when people are willing to take the time to do that feedback. And we've been trying to be responsive to the feedback that we got, the things that went well, the things that we need to get better at and learn from. And just today, we started our planning team beginning conversation around our October professional development. And we're really excited to start engaging with our professional development committee to learn more about what the needs are for that time and planning something really meaningful for our staff.
Thank you. It was delightful. It was quite, those students, there were 4 of them, and they were, 900 plus staff members, teachers that, they were quite brave, quite honest, and fearless. And you, I have to hand it to Assistant Superintendent Grimm that you moderated it really well, and you obviously had established a really good rapport with them and trust. So I'm really excited to see how this all goes. I hope you all had a good day that day.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you. To the cell phone policy update. Hot issue.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, my first presentation to the Petaluma City Schools Board and Board of Ed and our new students. I'm so excited to be coming forward with an update around and I know it's casually called the cell phone policy, but it is a mobile communication device policy. And I actually think, and you're the ones who wrote it, so that distinction matters. All right. This is just what we're going to be talking about. So first slide. Okay. So this year, so we had our policy that went into place last year, and there was still some wiggle room in that policy around the use at the high schools, right? The K through 8, it was start to finish, no cell phones visible. The high schools last year still allowed some use of the cell phones, I believe, passing periods or lunch, right? This year launched the full implementation of the policy. And so that's what this is talking about. And how we launched that is we did talk about it with the administrators in the professional development that Superintendent Goldwasser was talking about. And then administrators brought that back to their sites and led conversations around the implementation of the change in the cell phone policy, particularly even at, I want to say the whole secondary, even though the change was most significant at the high schools, we did include the junior high in that, the two junior highs in that conversation as well, knowing that, you know, the older students, and we just wanted to reiterate with them the policy. Some common procedures were established across the sites. They are using phone caddies in the high schools. This was done through the shared decision making with the union around how teachers would handle the mobile devices. And this point is the cell phones really about going in the phone caddies in the front of the classrooms. And staff received guidance and expectations, like I said, as their administrators came back to that site professional development. We've had some district and family communication. There were a lot of letters and emails and things that went out in the school communications. There was updating in the student handbook around the new policy language and the staff PD. And I think what's really important, and we're going to be talking about, well, I'm not going to get too much into the details of it, but letting us put this on the record that what we're going to be doing throughout the year is data collection around how the implementation is going, and in terms of using our own platform so that we can track the demographics around if there are confiscations or referrals or things that are happening with the mobile device policy. There will continue with site level presentations if necessary. I know that there were student assemblies. Again, these things were pushed out in various means to the students and to the families. We want to put together an FAQ if we think that things are rising, and we can put that on the website around the policy as well, and probably do some reminders. Probably when we come back in January, we tend to lose, you know, some of our memory over winter break, and just reestablish when we come in. And I just want to pause here and look out at our new student members, because I'm going to be looking to you, hopefully, around this data collection as well, and around like the FAQ. And I want to get feedback around how you see the implementation. I'm hoping that maybe the four of us can walk around the different schools. We can, you know, have conversations, that we can talk about it, and we can talk about what we're seeing, and maybe we can get in with the ASBs as well. While we were doing this, like as I had mentioned, we did some of the shared decision making with the PFT around, you know, the implementation for the teachers. We addressed supervision and enforcement responsibilities through that professional development at the sites. We want to establish an ongoing feedback loop with the site representatives and continue this collaboration. So I'm looking at somewhere late fall to have a small, because we don't like too many, you know, questions, but to push out a survey that we can get out to staff, students, and families. That would be done before winter break to start that feedback loop in terms of how we are pushing this out and be able to gather that information. So we'll do the site walkthroughs. We'll do the feedback surveys. We'll look at our discipline data, and then we'll continue to do site debriefs for the principal supervisors, myself, and Assistant Superintendent Grimm, and Director Martinez. As we directly work with the principals, we'll also be getting that qualitative kind of informal feedback of how things are going, but we have some formalized processes as well. The important distinction in the policy is around, in the high schools, is around what's happening at lunch and in those passing periods. So we just want to, again, establish that the policy was no cell phones, first bell, final bell. That includes passing, nutrition, and lunch. If students go to off-campus lunch, in the policy, it does talk about that. They can use their cell phones when they're off campus, and after-school activities as well, because the policy applies during the instructional day, not to the after-school activities. And so there can be different expectations for athletics or for clubs or other activities that are occurring. We know that we have work ahead of us. We know that, and I will say, although the feedback has been very positive, it is day 5. And we know that the first 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, primarily at the high schools, that was used for people to be out and about, to say, look what is coming. We are reminding you. You know, we also had a lot of students who still had their schedules on their phones. So, you know, people are walking around with their phones. And so we had people printing out the schedules and getting it to the students, but they did not launch right into the confiscation. They want to get the students back on campus. And then that started yesterday, the stricter, adherence to the policy. So we know that this is ongoing in terms of our capacity for monitoring and our capacity for supporting the sites. We do need to continue the work, and BYOD is the bring your own device. Because again, this is a mobile communication device, not just a cell phone policy. So this is around smartwatches, tablets, earbuds, and other personal devices. So thinking about how we're monitoring that and being able to adhere to the policy. We want to have consistent enforcement. So that example would be the phone caddies, that was something that was mutually decided upon. Phone caddies were purchased, and this is how we decided that it would be. And then again, the continued input is so that if we do need to bring this back, if we do need to, get together again and say, this is what we're seeing, these are trends and patterns, this is out of our data, or again, the qualitative data, that we can also think about what adjustments we may need to make. So that is the mobile device policy.
Thank you.
Mobile communication device. I'll get it right.
I know, it's a mouthful.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to start with the questions with our student board members. So does anybody want to jump in with a question or a comment? Chloe?
So a lot of students at Casa Grande specifically, I don't know about Petaluma or the alternative high schools, students are being punished for being on their phones in their cars at break or at lunch. And a lot of students are confused about the necessity of that when they're in their own personal property.
Yes, well, the policy does specifically say on campus. And so that is adhering to the policy if that is the enforcement that is being done. Thank you. It's a good question.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I feel like a lot of the stuff kind of like cleared up a lot of questions that I had, especially.
Great.
That was really helpful. Thank you for that. But I was gonna ask if there's gonna be any further kind of like clarification for the exact policies and like what it was, because I feel like a lot of the different teachers are implementing different things and it's getting a little bit confusing. Alongside that, I think it's kind of unclear to the students whether we're supposed to be putting it up in the caddy, and it's like varying from teacher to teacher because the policy, from what I was aware before the presentation, was off and away.
Yep.
So there's like different interpretations of that, I guess, is what I've been seeing around campus. I think kind of the back and forth of putting it in the caddy and then, oh, for this class, you have to keep it in your backpack, and then taking it out of the caddy, and then like maybe sometimes I think a lot of the times where it's going wrong a little bit is taking it out of the caddy, and then a lot of students seem to be putting it in their back pocket and then getting it snatched from them for it being often in their back pocket, kind of. So I think just a little bit of clarification on whether it's only the phone caddies or only in the backpack.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have meetings scheduled. Mr. Anderson is here. I have meetings scheduled on Thursday and Friday with all three of the principals. So I think what's best for me right now is to speak with them individually and with their administrative teams and sort of get an understanding, because my understanding was that it would be consistent, because Anna Maria, it's exactly what you're saying, that they said this is going to be confusing if some teachers want it in the caddy and some don't. And I think you brought up exactly what we had talked about. So I will definitely get some more information.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, I wanna,
Serena, wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Serena.
I don't have any questions right now, but thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Ryan?
Oops, all right, Sabrina, my apologies. Again, thank you for putting this together, following up, the course of action, I think, and the goal for consistency, especially in the first year of being stricter on this, consistency, I think, to students,
Yep.
to the teachers, to parents, that we're saying all the same thing, is going to, I think, be very helpful. I know this in other districts have implemented it. It's like a semester long, I think, battle to really, I think, install these consistent policies, follow-ups, procedures, and then second semester you really start seeing the results. So I know we're at the very forefront. My concern is, why did we decide to do something different for the middle schools versus the high schools? I mean, or sorry, for the junior highs and the high schools. So we have like cell phones in backpack at all times in the junior highs, and then now we're doing like they take them out, put in the caddy in high school. What led to like the inconsistency?
Mhm. You know, I don't actually have the answer for that, so I will look for that because that wasn't brought up when I met with the secondary, I wasn't aware. We were right in this room and I actually thought that everyone said that they had caddies. So I will get back to you, Trustee Williams, on that.
Well, I think just to answer Ryan's question, I think there was a no cell phone policy TK through 8.
Yes,
So the big push was at the high schools.
yes.
What does it mean when you're talking about extracurriculars? What does it mean established locally? What does that mean?
That is within that extracurricular. So if it's the sports or if it's FFA or I would think if it's ASB, that
So it's up to the advisor?
it is after school. Yes, that was put in the policy that they can make those determinations because it's outside of the instructional time.
Thank you. And one more question.
Yep.
What does it mean when you say consistent enforcement across all device types is still developing?
Well, I think for me, that was that part about the BYOD because there is still some need, like when they have their own, so we allow BYOD and then what are our own monitoring systems in terms of how it's being used or what's our capacity to actually monitor those? And those are definitely questions that are coming up.
Thank you.
Yes.
You answered my questions.
And I think you helped with Trustee Williams' question as well in that the junior highs had already done it last year. Obviously I was not here, but I can find out more if that had already been a backpack decision. And then if the high schools through the shared decision-making process had decided on the caddies. So I'll get that part.
I think that the caddies were done last year when there was a kind of a hybrid
Mm.
Policy when we were just implementing it partially.
Mhm.
And so it was no phones in the classroom. They have to be in the caddies.
Okay.
You were not to take them out. Am I correct? I think. Oh, they wanted to carry it on this year? Okay.
Yeah, that's Sandra and I discussed it. And then we all got reminded that it was a shared decision-making and we got the
No,
email
that's
sent to
fine.
us.
I
It's
didn't
fine.
know that.
Just as long as it's consistent. I mean, that's, I think, the key.
Yes, I think as was said to me, the policy is the floor of, first bell, last bell, no cell phones, TK through 12. And then as we are all human, there is going to be some ways that things might get implemented. Doesn't mean we can't hold to that standard of the beginning bell to end bell. And I think we need to see what works best in practice and what we have the capacity for as well. Yeah.
I had a question
Oh.
about the. Go ahead.
Don't say sorry.
No.
My question was gonna be about kind of what the exact precautions you guys are taking for if somebody is on their phone, what the exact procedure is supposed to be across all schools for how to get that back. Because I feel like I've heard a few different things about the end of the school, if you can get it yourself or if it's supposed to be your parent and how that kind of works itself.
Yes, I think that's great. That's all that's the next update. I know we wanted an update and we're 5 days in. And so now I need to circle back with the principals, right? I do think a lot of what I think presented was similar to the May 23rd. And then we're 5 days in and it was important to get this information out. And now we'll have principal meetings and we'll start to see what are our best practices and how how are these being given back? Where are they being centrally located? If they are, you're asking about if they're confiscated, right?
Yes, and how to retrieve those.
Yep.
Because I know there's been a lot of conversation on students being worried about being able to get their phones right after school, especially with adults having and their parents having work and whatnot.
Yep.
So I know that there's a lot of discussion about that. So I just
Yep.
trying to get like a feel of what is going
Yeah,
on.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm fine.
Okay. I'll take going.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have a presentation on Proposition 28 funding.
Right, good evening. Tonight I'll be presenting an update on Proposition 28, the state's arts and music in schools funding. Proposition 28 was passed by voters in November of 2022 and guarantees ongoing funding for arts and music instruction, TK through 12. It funds roughly 1% of the Prop 98 minimum guarantee each year, totaling $1 billion statewide. The state allocates it to every district by a formula, 70% based on enrollment and 30% based on the share of economically disadvantaged students using the prior year's data. For Petaluma City Schools, our total allocation projected for 26-27 is $1.2 million. That breaks down to $266,000 for our elementary district, just under $700,000 for our secondary districts, and $240,000 across our 5 charter schools. There are 2 rules that govern every dollar of this. First, the state requires at least 80% to go to staffing arts and music educators, with up to 20% for materials, supplies, and training. The funding is intended to support and enhance existing arts programs and opportunities. Elementary sites are pulled into one report and the secondary sites are pulled into another. Our 5 charter schools each report to the state individually, since charter schools are required to meet Prop 28 statutory requirements dependently of the district. Our elementary and secondary principals discussed how best to use the funds and agreed that pooling resources would provide greater flexibility and allow for a more coordinated approach across schools. Rather than managing each site's allocation separately, this approach allows schools to work together to support arts programming and staffing in ways that respond to the needs of students across our sites while aligning with the overall intent. This also makes it so there's less reporting requirements district-wide. I do want to note that though currently sites can opt to be part of a district pool or independently, there is legislation currently moving through Sacramento, which is AB 2440, which would provide additional clarity around district level pooling of Prop 28 funds. The bill passed the Assembly in May and is now at the Senate Appropriations Committee. It has not been assigned into law, so it doesn't change the requirements we're operating under today, but this may be the way we are operating may be required in the future. This slide shows the 20% share of materials, supplies, and training dollars allocated to each site's discretionary budget. This is a per enrollment allocation. Each site's number, its enrollment multiplied by a per student rate set by the district, which is currently $10 per pupil for TK through 5th sites, 6, depending on the site. And then 6th through 12th grade is $15. These figures will be updated after our 10-day count, so the enrollment numbers are from spring. The remaining allocation is held in ed services, and requests for larger items beyond the site's allocation will go through the VAPA committee for approval. I did update the slide this evening. The original slide did not include the VAPA committee. I had a misunderstanding. I didn't realize that we were still having the VAPA committee today. This year. So we'll go back to how we did it in previous years, which that went through the committee. This, this slide shows the 80% share of the dollars used for staffing. This is funded 2 ways. Secondary staffing is funded by sections, while elementary and charter staffing is funded by FTE. The share of the full-time position. Pengrove Elementary, Mary Collins, Valley Vista, staffing is counted under the elementary. That is the way we break up the VAPA and music teachers. Looking at the 4-year trend, our total district allocation has grown from just over $1 million in 23-24 to $1.2 million this year, which is up an increase of about 17.5%. Our charters have grown the fastest because we have a new charter. So Valley Vista did not receive Prop 28 funds last year in their first year of implementation. So this will be their first year for receiving the funds. This slide shows how unspent funds carry over and the rule against supplanting existing arts fundings. Each year's allocation has its own 3-year spending window, and unspent funds revert to the state rather than remain with the district if we do not meet the 3-year deadline. The state's audit compares our non-Prop 28 arts spending year over year to confirm that this money is adding to and not replacing existing funds. If a position was funded, and for an example, if a position was funded by a grant that's ending, we can generally move it to Prop 28 without that counting as supplanting, as long as we document the why. So we saw this through the budget eliminations in spring where a part of a music position was reduced. We followed the process and then we were able to bring it back with the funding. We currently don't have our prior year carryover. That will come back to the board in September. And once you approve unaudited actuals, we will then add last year's carryover into the pot of money. Thank goodness I wasn't being recorded. Happy to answer any
Great.
questions.
Thank you. My goodness. That was great. It was very informative and easy to follow. I really appreciated it.
Thank you.
Any questions from our student board members? Do you know, and do you have an idea now about what our Proposition 28 monies are for? Okay, all righty.
So,
Brian?
Amanda, I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Brian,
Oh.
he had his hand up. Sorry.
Amanda, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for laying that out and providing the update. There was an article out of Cal Matters, for folks who don't know, that's like the Associated Press for state politics or state government. They did an article on Prop 28 and how billions of dollars are being returned to the state. I want to ensure that, we are, utilizing all that grant funding each year and we're not returning any money to the state. Just wanted to confirm that in light of that article.
Yes, that is correct. We have not needed to return any unspent funds.
Thank you.
Ellen?
I have a question. So money that we used when we had the block grant, okay, that went away. Could we then put those positions into Prop 28 because the grant went away? Did I understand that right?
Yes, we could have. I don't believe we did at the time, but that could have happened.
Okay. I had another question, but it left my brain, so I'll come back.
You can always email me.
Any other questions? I have a clarification on, I was just wondering about, so if I've got this right, there's a 3-year cycle and you're funded at the beginning of the 3 years. And, but we get funds for a new cycle every year. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And then, but the carryover, so does this mean that usually there is carryover every year?
Historically, we have had carryover. I believe the very first year that this was one of the things we knew it was coming. We actually received the dollars very late in the
Yes.
fiscal year. I want to say January, I don't remember for sure. Then we didn't make the decision meeting with the principals, how that was going to be used. So very few funds were spent in the first year of implementation. Those carried over. Now, 3 years in, we've made sure those have spent. So what I can confirm when I bring back unaudited actuals is I'm pretty sure that the only carryover we will have from 25-26 is 25-26 funding. I do not believe that we have any 24-25 funding left, but with that carryover, I'll let you know which of the 3-year cycle we are in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have comments from the public on non-agendized items. They all get 3 minutes. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to read the guidelines for public comment. It looks like you're all going to have 3 minutes. The guidelines for public comment are public comments are subject to a 3-minute per person limit or a 20-minute limit per subject matter. Under Government Code Section 54954.3A, members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any items of interest, providing it relates to the subject matter's jurisdiction of the school district. If the comment is about something that is not on the agenda, it will be heard only during the public comment on non-agendized items, period. And that's now. Once that part of the meeting is over, comments will only be taken on agenda items during the discussion of those items. So during action, we'll hear people who want to speak about action items that are on the agenda, same with discussion. You can also submit your input in writing by email or other means to the superintendent, board president, board members, or other designated staff member. While government code allows speakers to criticize the district's policies, procedures, programs, services, and/or employees, the district does have a policy, BP 1312.1, specific to complaints against employees. Since public comment is for the benefit of the board, please stand at the podium, face the board, not the audience, and use the microphone. As a member of the audience, please try to refrain from cheering and applauding speakers. The board values public comments, and although we cannot take action or discuss items not on the agenda, we listen carefully and appreciate input from the public. Okay, moving on. I just want to check with this real quick. Peter Costas is our first speaker.
Thank you.
Hello, Peter.
Good evening, and Peter Costas, I'm currently president of Sonoma County Board of Education. And I really want to congratulate Anna Maria and Chloe and Sabrina for being a trustee, and maybe you'll get elected one of these days and be sitting there too. And I also want to congratulate Superintendent Goldwasser and the board hiring you. I was talking to Dr. Carter, our county superintendent, and she's very happy with what the board decided to hire as a superintendent. So November, we have elections coming up, and there are, well, now there are only 38 school districts in the county. There are 62 seats up for election for trustees, and there are more than a half a dozen that nobody's running for. They're just open seats. And I think, my opinion, I think some of that is being a trustee is a lot different today than it was years ago. It's a lot more challenging, and you know what those challenges are. I know Petaluma City Schools is going to have 3 new trustees, and I just want to let Joanna and Caitlin and Maddie know how much I appreciated your service, and that you really care deeply about kids. And I personally am not going to run for a 4th term for the county board, so my seat's open. I know Trustee Quinn is have her hat in the ring, as does another candidate too. So at our last school board meeting, we had Lisa Whitkey Schaffner. She's the CEO of the North Bay Construction Corporation. And we had Eli Weinsweg, I can't say his name. He's the president of the CTE Foundation. And they talked about internships. They talked about training. They talked about the trades. And they talked about their every high school in the county. And they talked about there was over 30 Petaluma High School students, San Antonio, Petaluma High, and Casa Grande that participated in those internships. And they really hope that more students will get involved in those programs. And finally, on Monday, September 14th at 5 o'clock at SCO, Dr. Carter will be handing out money for school rules.
That's our new 30-second.
Oh, I got lots of time. So,
So I will not be interrupting you anymore.
that's okay. So school rules, I think you're aware of that, is where the superintendent is able to disperse funds to every school district in the county based on their enrollment. So I know Petaluma gets quite a bit of money because you're the second largest school district in the county. So that's going to be on Monday, the 14th of September. And again, thank you all for your service.
Look at that. Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Have fun in your retirement. Monica, no last name, school nurse.
Hello. I am Genevieve. I'm not Monica today. So, good evening, board members. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the district nurses to ask for your help with growing gaps in the health coverage across our schools. This year, nursing staffing was reduced by 30% from 5 nurses to 3.5, with SOCC nursing reduced from 0.5 FTE. 2 nurses are now working only 0.5 FTE for Petaluma City Schools. This has created significant gaps in coverage and equity. Some schools are no longer guaranteed to have a nurse on campus even once each week. We are already seeing the impact in the first 5 days of school. Multiple 911 calls were made. The schools are calling nurses with urgent health needs when there are not enough nurses available to respond. Only 5 of the 11 sites have health assistants. At schools without a health assistant, the district has not identified who is responsible for responding to medical needs when a nurse is not on the site. We're also concerned about staff preparation. First aid and health training was offered, but it was not mandatory, and many staff members who wanted to attend were not permitted to do so. Anyone can call 911, but staff first need to recognize when a situation is a medical emergency. We have had incidents where staff had difficulty recognizing an emergency. Early recognition matters. Staff also need to know what to do in critical 5 to 10 minutes while waiting for an ambulance to arrive. Calling 911 is an important part of an emergency response plan, but it cannot be the entire plan. We understand the district is facing difficult financial decisions. We are asking for your help and partnership in addressing these safety gaps. The board previously placed the additional nurse position on the rehire list. We ask you to keep that position a priority and help the district identify funding to restore it. Until then, every school needs a clear plan: who responds when a nurse is not there, how those staff members will be trained, and how urgent nursing needs will be covered. We want to work with you to make sure a student's access to appropriate health support does not depend on which school they attend or what day they need help. Thank you. I always go a little bit too fast. Well, I could start all over again. Does anybody
Thank you.
have any responses or
We
questions?
cannot. Bye-bye. Jesse Redfield.
Hi, I'm gonna do everything I can to not hear that 30-second timer. I'm Jessie Redfield, English and Journalism at Petaluma High. I feel like I've been up here a lot this year. So hopefully you guys know that I love this town and I love our kids and I love our staffs. And some of you have been in my classroom for an entire year and kind of know my jam. This is year 12 for me. I have been here my entire career. I hope to retire from Petaluma City Schools. I adore it and love it. I just got to move back to Petaluma, which has been on my list for a while. I lived in Cotati for a bit. It's such a difference maker to be able to, I went home before this board meeting and just like crash for a little bit. To not have to drive on 101, to be able to go to the kids' games again, to be able to just on a whim go, yeah, I think I could go to that club meeting or that presentation or whatever. However, when I moved here, I moved on my own. I'm proudly without roommates, and it costs so much money. Some of you know. To get a one-bedroom apartment, I, as a 12-year teacher with a master's, with all of the credits possible to move along the scale, did not qualify. I do not make enough money to live in Petaluma. I lucked out because they were like, well, you're a teacher and you've been here for 12 years, so we assume you're going to be remaining a teacher and having a job. But that was a real kick that I don't make enough money to have a one-bedroom apartment in the place I live, that I barely take home more than double what my apartment costs. It's insane. And I just tell you these stories because if I, 12 years in, willing to put all of this money in to live in this amazing community we have, I cannot imagine being a first-year teacher or a second-year teacher or a third-year teacher or a 10th-year teacher choosing to live here. And so as negotiations continue, I really do hope that you and the district take into consideration, we don't want the world, but we want to live here. We love it here. And there are so many staff members who do not live here because of the cost. Dang it, I didn't make it. All right. Hey.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate that first buzzer is replacing me. Okay. Okay, Ali, boys.
Hi, I'm Lee Boyes, and I teach science at Petaluma High. Many of you have seen me before, but I haven't been here in a while. I've been a science teacher at public high schools for 45 years this year, 33 of them here at Petaluma City Schools. And I came to Petaluma City Schools because I grew up in Sebastopol. When I came back to Sonoma County, I was looking for a school district that valued their employees, that put students first, that really wanted to work with the members of the union, which I had been for some time. So I came here to Petaluma City Schools, even though at that time the salary was much lower than I could have made many other places. And I've been offered jobs and positions at many other places that are more money. I stay here because I really love this district. As Jesse was saying, we're all pretty committed. We have high morale. We are very creative. We want to work with our students, but it's getting pretty tough. And I just feel that experience that we want to encourage more teachers to come here. It's really hard, especially in science. We've had many years of not being able to find science teachers. So one of the things I'd like to recommend to the board and to the district is that if we can get over this not having a salary decision, not having a contract until a year and a half after we've supposedly had one. When I started here, we had a salary and a contract and a master's schedule before we left for summer. Now nobody knows what they're going to be teaching or where or when or how much they're going to be paid until into the fall. And here we are again doing it again with a contract from last year. We can't even start on the new one that we need to get going on. So whatever pressure can be brought to bear to fix that contract issue so that we no longer go into every summer insecure, unhappy, and dejected about what's supposed to be happening in the fall, but instead can go to the summer creating new things, being excited about a new school year, and moving on with what we want to do to make students successful. Please do something to settle the contract sooner rather than later so we can quit wasting our time and energy on that and use that to help our kids.
Thank you. Please. Linda, Judah?
Hi, my name is Linda Judah, and this year I'm teaching science at Casa Grande High School. I've also taught at Petaluma High School, so I've been in the district for some time. And like a lot of the people who have spoke so far, love this place. I actually have a child who is a graduate of Petaluma City Schools. I live in Petaluma, and like all the teachers you've heard from so far, we're very committed to our students and to this community. That being said, we do need to replace some of us. I'm tired. I would like to retire. And when we hire young new teachers and then we lay them off at the end of each school year and then hope that they'll still accept a job back when we figure out how many kids we have, it's not a given. And we lose good people every year. And our administrators are pulling their hair out because they're trying to put a schedule together and they don't know if they have teachers or not. This is a problem. This is a problem for us. It's a problem for our students and for our families because, like Lee was saying, we don't have any kind of certainty. And that is not a healthy way for us to be moving forward as a, as a whole team, right? We're all on team PCS. But when a big chunk of us don't know if we have a job next year or we don't know if we can afford to live here, that's a problem. And so I would love to encourage you to, as Lee said and others said, please give as much of your time and attention as you can to helping us all get through and get a contract in order so that we can put our happy faces back on, because we really do want to recruit those young, awesome teachers and we want them to stay, but it's hard. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Larson.
Hello, I'm Sandra Larson. I have lived in Petaluma for 44 years, and all three of my children are about to all be in their 40s, but they're all CASA graduates. So been involved with Petaluma City Schools for a long time. We've been out of contract now for 413 days, 59 weeks, or 9,912 hours. Being out of contract fosters uncertainty and a sense of being undervalued. Moreover, it's been 413 days without a pay increase at a time in which prices are soaring. Our members are adapting to new leadership and the expectations that come with that. We do not need the added stress of worrying about how to pay for housing, gas, food, and utilities. Supporting teachers is supporting students. The board must stand behind our members with a fair and equitable raise and finally conclude negotiations so that we can concentrate on our true job, which is educating students. Thank you.
Thank you. Clapping. Shayna Friedman.
My name is Shauna Friedman. This is my 9th year as a counselor at Casa Grande and my 5th year on the PFT negotiations team. Tonight, I want to share how being out of contract, specifically the lack of a pay increase and the staggering cost of healthcare, has affected my family. In April, my husband unexpectedly was laid off and we lost health insurance. I had no choice but to enroll in healthcare through PCS, where the lowest Kaiser plan is close to $500 a month with a $6,000 family deductible. I commute from Santa Rosa. Between rising gas prices and inflation impacting food costs, we'd already cut back on expenses. Now our income was cut in half, minus an extra $500 per month. As a negotiator, it was clear an increase wasn't coming anytime soon, and I knew that a COLA wouldn't even keep pace with inflation. Needless to say, this was an extremely stressful time. I was supposed to be supporting my students, and I was worried about affording the cost of gasoline to make it to work. My husband started a new job in May, and we are now receiving a far more comprehensive coverage through his employer, and the monthly premium is about a third of the cost of PCS. On July 16th, I was involved in a freak accident which resulted in extensive emergency medical care. I temporarily lost the use of one of my hands and was unable to drive. If this had happened during the school year, I would have been unable to work. And in a week, I racked up about $3,000 in medical bills, all of which was thankfully covered. And if I had still been under the PCS plan, I would not have met the individual deductible. So what would have happened if I was a new teacher in the district? How would someone at the bottom of the pay scale manage an extra $500 a month plus $3,000 in medical expenses, not to mention a potential loss of 2 weeks of work? This experience was a true hardship for my family, and it would have been financially devastating for a new teacher, someone just starting out in their career. How can we expect to attract and retain new quality educators when our salary and benefits don't support our current staff? So we need a COLA, we need a contract, and we need your support so we can keep showing up for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're going on to the consent items. I think we can. You guys feel like a break? 5-minute break? I think that we need that. Thank you. We are pausing for 5 minutes. Before we take a motion, I just want to note that there was in the original agenda that was posted, there was a new board policy 5141.5 around student behavioral health. And it was a first read. So we removed it from the consent agenda for this meeting. And a first reading of that policy will be a discussion item at our next meeting. All right.
Sorry. Oh, that's really loud. I moved to pull the minutes from the consent just because I wasn't here, so I don't want to vote on it.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Do you
I moved to approve the consent agenda as amended.
second?
I have a few questions on the consent calendar.
Well, wait a minute. We're voting on her
No, I moved to approve the consent as amended.
as a minute. Have we,
Now we
but
can
we
vote
have,
back.
Yeah,
we haven't approved the.
you don't need to because she just pulls it and then we vote on the item separately. It's no longer consent.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so on a couple of the purchase orders, I have a couple questions for Amanda. So, I think as we've heard for this last several meetings, that I think it's a priority for all of us. Like we still are not out of our like let's say fiscal yellow flag, and we have to watch every dollar and do the best we can to find looking at contracts and where are we spending, funds. So I'm going to be continuing this through the semester, and we should be looking and shining a light and like having a conversation about a lot of our spending to see again where our priorities lie and whether we can find cost savings, even if it's a little bit, but these things can snowball into real savings. So I have a couple of questions, like I said, on the purchase orders, but in particular, I saw that we have 275,000 for Johnson controls for the fire protection orders. It looks like these are somewhat of like overlapping, I would say items, but that's a large fund. So I would love to hear a little more about what we're what they do and why this funding is at that level, or the purchase order request is at that level.
Thank you. The Johnson Controls contract was awarded through a Sourcewell competitive piggyback contract for best value to the district. So that is how we were able to get the lowest cost for this specific contract. The services include required fire alarm testing, semi-annual and annual fire sprinkler wet system testing, which is quarterly, district-wide as required by California Fire Code, And I believe that there might have been questions. This came as a PO and there's also purchases in the warrant. So the warrant below is part of this purchase. So we split it into the types of testing. I think one of the differences this year too, one of the district practices we've really been trying to initiate is to really, when we go to do our budgets and our interims, to really see the encumbered. You can only see what your projected spending is if you encumber the full amount of the PO for the year. So district practice for years was to encumber quarterly, so you would only see a fourth of it each quarter. And now we're trying to do it annually. We know this is going to be a cost to the district, and it will show up in our interims as earmarked for spending now. So I think that's one of the things too.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the next flags I saw I want to discuss is we have $47,000 in copier overages. I know when we lease a copier, it is much cheaper, both, in getting something quickly and then on the maintenance on that. But if you don't overuse it and, so was wondering what happened there and what can we do to not have copier overages this year?
Yeah, great. Years ago, we used to purchase our copy machines and then it was harder and harder to serve them. And the older they got, the more that they broke. We actually have found over the last few years that it is cheaper to lease them now. The $47,000 in copier overages, that reflects a district-wide usage above the amount included in our base contracts. We intentionally maintain a lower base contract and pay for additional usage as needed so that the district does not pay upfront costs for capacity that we may not use.
Okay. All right. Let's revisit that. But again, we should do everything we can. 47,000 is a position, right? So, and then I was looking at our software renewals. We have over $300,000 in software renewals at this time. And, it looks like several have increased by about a third year over year. Edpuzzle and JotForms in particular jumped out at me. So, I know we are entering the school year. It's these are required programs, but what can we do to, I think, review our licenses to make sure that we are, we're not, spending money for licenses that we're not using, that we are negotiating with these firms, because this is how they get you on the subscription model. Every year they have huge jumps in price increases, but this seems like a large increase year over year in software.
Great question. I'm going to speak to it in two parts. First, I want to start with, you mentioned the JOT form. That reflects an additional licenses to support our transition from paper to online forms district-wide, which creates both staff time and cost savings through efficiency. So that's why we saw an increase to JOT forms this year over last year. And we do regularly review software renewals for potential overlap and license utilization and looking for cost savings. Kirsten, how many hours do you feel like we've spent in the last 3 weeks talking about this such thing and counting, actually counting student by student grade level to make sure not only with licenses, but also curriculum, this is a constant?
Yeah, so I can just speak to a practice that we are implementing. And unfortunately, as maybe teachers here can attest to, because we are watching literally every single dollar with each one of these orders, instead of just renewing, I had myself and my staff are going through, not only are we purchasing based on what is the maximum capacity of a grade level, et cetera, but we are looking at the enrollment numbers and we are doing it to that. So there are actually POs that we have changed for many of these things in order to make sure that every single place where we can, we are only spending money that is directly going to be utilized by students. To the point that for specifically, so because of that, we weren't able to start like the year with everybody's licenses ready to go because I was like, nope, we need to actually go back, change this PO for that. In terms of like a change that we've made is we've gone from Edgenuity to subject. And in looking at, we actually tracked, I got data to see how many, we have a contract with 2 of our sites where Edgenuity is for 5 years that we're already locked into, right? But based on, I know we have to have those. What exact licenses did we use last year in terms of Edgenuity? And if we get that from subject minus the ones that we are already locked in for, can we do something that's not a site, like a district license, but can we do it by site and have some cost savings? So we went, we're going through like detail by detail. And even though the way I'm looking at, even if it's like a $300 savings here, every single bit right now really matters. And it matters that whatever we are putting towards student use and teacher use for students, that in fact, that is actually following up and happening. So we're also going to be looking to see if we're using the curriculum.
Well, I appreciate hearing that and all the work that your teams are doing on this front. We, like you said, every single dollar that we can save, to go back into the students, the classrooms. We had unfortunate cuts last year, so I appreciate that we are, having this fiscal stewardship as we continue, adjusting to the, I think lower budget levels. My last question was on the go-to technologies for the phone numbers for the staff. That is an annual versus monthly, or?
Yes, this is a purchase order for what we anticipate to be for annual, and this go-to did replace the AT&T POTS lines we did this maybe a little over a year ago. I don't remember when we did that, but there was a cost savings to the district to move to these lines.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. That's all. Thank you, Maddie.
Of course, thank you. Anybody else? Anything on consent? All right, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. The motion passes.
Me. Someone
Okay.
got to move
Oh.
minutes.
Yeah, motion to approve the minutes on the consent item. On the consent calendar,
second.
sorry.
You second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to comments from the public on action items. Seeing none, we will go on to our action items. Approval of the capital facility contracts for August 2026.
Thank you. Compared to what we have been bringing forward over the last few months, the contracts for this evening include just over $300,000. All of this is coming out of our bond funds. Things to note is now that we have a site selected for the Performing Arts Center, we will move forward with the CEQA process, and this includes a CEQA consultant. And then the other 2 items tonight are the geotech and the topography surveys for Valley Vista, Public Waldorf, TK, and Kinder project.
Excellent. Brian, you have a question?
Where are our TK students right now at Valley Vista? Are they in portables?
They're in leased portables. So in order to start the school year, last year we had to lease 4 portables. 7th and 8th grade are in 2 of them, and then TK Kinder are in 2 of them. So once this project is actually 6 classrooms, but once the project is complete, we will no longer lease they are in temporary places. And we only have CDE and DSA approval for temporary housing on them where they are.
And then, so once we complete this project, we'll be able to get rid of, or like, again, remove the portables and then have that again, end those leases?
Yes, it's actually included in the scope of the work. So because of the timing of the project, they will be removed just as the building is ready to house. So it's all included in that. I know. I
Nothing
didn't
will
say
be
a
wrong.
date. Did you notice?
Never missed a field goal.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Ed Services, we have approval of the bell schedule instructional minutes for 26-27.
Good evening. Good evening, President Cloud, trustees. I wanted to bring this before you. Normally, and in the past, it has been a consent item. And the reason I'm bringing this before you as a discussion action item is because it is my first launch of the school year within Petaluma City Schools. And so I just thought a brief update regarding this item might be helpful for you in taking action. So in terms and in accordance with the California Education Code requirements, each school within PCS must submit its instructional minutes and corresponding bell schedules for approval by all of you. And this is to ensure that we meet our minimum instructional minutes required for each grade level per year. So we collaborated quite heavily with district administrators, site principals, and instructional staff to review, align all of the bell schedules and ensure that we met those requirements. So you'll see on the very minimal slide presentation that for both secondary and elementary, the 3 bullets are the same. The yearly instructional minutes are met, minimum, daily are met, and average are met. And then what we are working on, so that's the same, they're the same. All the schedules that you have before you do legally comply with the bare minimum. What I did want to offer for all of you is that there are some next steps in going through this process in the start of the year that we are going to be working towards. In secondary, one of the things that I am continuing to work on is build clarity and kind of capacity around implementing our scheduling guidelines with fidelity, specifically to what I believe is the intent of the board's directive around this area and to what happens in practice. And so in having this be, my first year going through that, we are diligently working on that right now. And by day 10, we've already started collecting data to see what needs to happen. And by day 10, we'll have even better data to determine exactly where we are in meeting the scheduling guidelines. One thing that I just want you all to be aware of is that right now, the scheduling guidelines include independent study, or sorry, not independent study, teacher assistance as like an IWE course. And it includes that as being a class. That's what the current guidelines say. So we are working right now on a solution for this year and clarifying what an ideal solution can be moving forward to really align with what I think is the intent of the board moving forward. And so there is going to be a process in one of our district committees this year to be, we might offer more clarity within the scheduling guidelines in order to get after what I believe is the intent and bring that forward for all of you guys. But we will be collecting data, and what is for sure happening is every student will meet the instructional minutes requirement on every single day, and the TA classes are not included as instructional minutes. Okay, so I just want to be clear with that. That is what we are making sure happens for this year, and our effort is to then go into 27, 28 with the data that we get and bring to the board if that is something that you would like to see. So that's for secondary, and I'm just going to also talk about elementary, and then I'll take questions. Okay.
So in terms of elementary, same thing. We've met the minimum instructional minutes. What we have found in this process this year is that there are varying instructional minutes from the different elementary schools. There's varying start times and end times and lunch breaks and recesses. And while I think that was definitely planned with each community's needs in mind, when we're thinking about aligning our district resources that are minimal at the moment to best support our schools, it's hard when there's so many variances to be able to do that. In addition, and just in terms of an equitable experience for our students, if you're going to one elementary school versus another and you're getting this many amount of instructional minutes versus another, that is something that we're raising and looking at right now. So we also have an additional district committee that will be looking at with our shared decision-making process. How is there ways where we can align to provide an equitable experience for our students and also better and more efficiently use our district resources in terms of our reading specialists, our BRTs, and how we employ kind of those resources across sites. All right. Any questions?
Yeah, so, okay, so we have students that are TAs,
Mhm.
and that doesn't count toward instructional minutes.
Correct.
I'm very confused how that's working out, because are the students getting credit for being a TA? Are they only allowed to be a TA if they've already met?
So right now, our scheduling guidelines talk about that students in good standing can be TAs, and that will count as one of the classes required in terms of the 6 classes, the 5 classes that is very clearly in the scheduling guidelines. So yeah, right currently. And I know that again, what I have discovered in this process is I'm not sure that the intent of the board and how it's being implemented in practice, of nobody's fault, is aligned. And so we're going to be bringing data and figure so that we can mesh that for 27, 28 and in terms of your question, instructional minutes, they are not being counted as instructional minutes. They are getting credit for a elective course.
So I'm still confused.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
So if it's not being counted as instructional minutes, how do we know that we're meeting our minimum of instructional minutes if you've got students taking TAs that aren't counting?
Okay, so we are overall meeting our instructional minutes, but by student, we also want to make sure we're meeting instructional minutes. And because there's A/B block days, as long as students are scheduled so that they do not have a TA period and an off period, both of which do not count as instructional minutes conservatively, right? Is what we're trying. If those are not on the same A or B day, then we've done, the math, they can meet it. So currently, the data that we just recently pulled, we're in about, at both schools, a combined 20 kids who, how their schedules are, wouldn't meet that. So we are working right now by day 10 to change the schedules to make sure that by each student, we definitely have met that requirement.
I'm just going to jump in and say some additional information. So the instructional minutes is a bit confusing. And so just to clarify, the TA block, because the student is, they're supporting a teacher or whatever they're doing, in order for it to count for instructional minutes, they need to be receiving educational content, instruction of some kind through whatever different modality. And so right now it's possible for a future TA experience to include that, but because we're not analyzing every single TA experience, we're taking a more conservative route and saying that we're not going to count that as instructional minutes because the expectation on what happens during a TA period is really varied right now. We don't have the time to do that. So we're just taking a more conservative approach and then working towards our guidelines for next year on just, are we continuing with TAs, as a free period? What are we doing around that? But so this was kind of a short term of just getting aligned on what counts for instructional minutes and then realizing that there may be some, need to continue to align around what Kirsten was saying around kind of the vision around how many courses and kind of pulling how many students are in that situation. But so after the 10-day count, we'll be able to provide to the board like how many students are in which categories and what, because we're literally going student by student and seeing their specific situation. Yeah.
Ryan, did you?
So thank you for the update. Appreciate this. I want to emphasize, if we are adjusting start times, I'm all for absolutely to ensure that each one of our elementary schools has, appropriate and equal and shared, instructional minutes. I think that's a great goal. I would definitely want to be cautious on start times, like not just, again, just doing something just to do something, because we do have a couple of unique locations that have traffic issues, including in my district, and want to, like, there are some like staggered drop off. And again, I think the staff's input on how, again, if we have any adjustments to start time, how that potentially can really impact the community and staff and parents. So just want to caution on that.
Trustee Williams, I hear that comment as you wanting to be part of our committee in shared decision making too, when we're making this decision to bring that lens. And I am looking forward to you being on the committee. Yeah.
Okay, do our student board members have any input on any of this?
Yes, so students who I do know multiple students at Casa Grande at least who do have an off period and a TA period in the same day, perhaps even back to back. Are their schedules going to be changed? And if so, like what classes are they going to be taking instead? What if everything is completely full, as is the case at Casa?
Very good question, Chloe. And it's literally data that we've been looking at every single day. So right now we think that the amount of students that are in that position, we think, we're pulling different sets of data, is about 20 kids overall. So in terms of what the solution will be, we're going to look at it case by case and then figure out exactly what we need to do to make sure that they are meeting the base instructional minutes per day. So specifically on a B day or an A day. Does that make sense? So it will not be a uniform solution because we have to actually look at that kid's transcript and make decisions based on that. And I'm sure the student will also be involved with that.
Good question. Anna?
I actually did have a question. So I know we've been talking about the comprehensives a lot, but are we also looking at the schedules for the alternative schools?
That
by
is
student? And can we, if we have not?
That is a very good question. We can, and there are different, I'm just talking right now about the minimum requirements in terms of legal requirements. They are different for our alternative education students, but we absolutely can make sure that we're looking into that too. Thank you for that.
Any other questions?
Anna?
Yes, Anna.
It might have been
Either one.
You want mine? Yeah.
I
think Anna was
Yeah.
going to speak and then.
Sorry, I had just a question about what the further steps we're looking for the TA periods. I don't know if like what was going on to move in the future, because I know you were talking a lot about.
Repeat, sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
Sorry, I know you're talking a lot about like what's going on in the future with TA periods. So I guess my question is what the point is in trying to, what I assume, I think is what you're trying to say is get rid of the TA periods.
That is a great question. I don't know that it is that the solution is get rid of the TA periods. What I think that my understanding from the intent of the board is to really make sure that our students are being prepared for college and career. And in order to do that, it's really helpful, especially in your junior and senior year, to have schedules that show that you are doing everything you possibly can to be college and career prepared in terms of going to college. In addition, right now, in terms of the students in good standing, right, is based on PCS requirements. And my concern is if students haven't passed a class with a C or better, if they're able to be on that college and career track. So I think that what we're looking at is just making sure that every instructional minute that our students can get is being utilized to prepare them for college and career.
Okay, and then I don't know if you may have answered it in Chloe's question, but is the goal as well for schedules to not have a TA and off period in the incoming year back to back?
I think that my understanding is the intent is that in the future, in terms of what it says, we have to get clarity on if IWEAs will be considered a class, and what would be needed for them to be considered a class that is valuable and teaching students skills in terms of getting ready for the workforce, right? So we need to determine that. And we also need to determine, if not, is IWE taking is it considered an off period so that there's not an off period and a TA class? So I think those are the questions that we're going to get clarity on the board's intent. We're going to see what it looks like in practice, and we're going to make sure that when we have that district committee where we're doing our shared decision making, that we are all on the same page and implementation matches our vision.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You actually answered my question in your presentation. I was just gonna say it amazed me how different elementary schools could start and end at the same time and still have wildly different numbers of instructional minutes. So I'm glad I think it'll be easier for like sharing nurses and sharing music teachers and all of those things if they don't have to think, oh, well, Grant starts at 10:03 and then I go to McDowell and it's 10:10. Like, that just sounds chaotic. So I'm glad we're going to make some changes.
Fabulous. Thank you. I think you're on the right track and I appreciate it. I know that's a lot of work.
Thank you.
Okay. We have to vote. We need a motion.
I'm not turning on.
Oh,
I move to approve.
I'll second.
all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right.
Well, we have no discussion items. And so we go on, we have no discussion items. So we're moving on to activities and correspondence of the school board members. And so we have a meeting with the CSEA president and staff from Caitlin. Ellen had agenda review, back to school night at McDowell, and the VAPA meeting. Any report on any of that?
I really enjoy going to back to school nights because I get to bop into classrooms and see what the kids are doing, and everything's being shown, and I can listen to the teachers. And there was a huge turnout at McDowell for back to school night. It was wonderful.
Fabulous. Thank you for doing that. Okay, and then I went to the Safe Routes to School Task Force. And this is a task force for safe routes to school. And it's a collaboration with the city and the school district and various community members and organizations to create safer streets. This task force has been around, I think we initiated it about 3 years ago. The city has done an audit with the schools of each one of our school sites, and then determined how they could change the, some of the road and traffic. What would you call it first thing in the morning at every single one of our chaos? And to make it safer. How do we encourage our kids to bike and walk to school? They did walking school buses, and they've done a lot of group bike riding and things like that at all the different schools. So they had a hiatus. And so this is the first meeting, I think, in several months, if not a year. And what one of the reasons that they met was because of the real explosion and problems with e-bikes. And so they did a whole presentation on what are e-bikes, what are the differences in e-bikes, what's a legal e-bike, and what can schools do in order to make sure that our children aren't riding illegal bikes, which is basically a bike that has a throttle, I found out. So anyway, the city and the schools are going to try to work together on, communicating to parents in particular, but also to students. Just a dynamic informational communications strategy, and it has to be repeated over and over and over. And because the police department is just finding horrific accidents, it's really a problem. And so it was really nice to re-meet and refocus and recommit to making this really an issue for the whole community. Yeah.
Maddie, I have a quick
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Do they, do you talk about students crossing the street where not all areas have like the flashing lights?
That was part of the audit last year.
Yeah.
And so the city traffic engineer made lots and lots of notes. It's all in their plan, but
Okay.
each school is being done at a different time. So you'll notice at different school sites, you'll see, some little barriers turning right or turning left. And so there's small things that they're doing because nobody has any money.
True.
And so they're just trying to slow people down. They're trying to make their signs. And I think they're throughout the city, they're repainting all of the crosswalks.
The reason
But
why-
not all of them. That's a very expensive thing. So
know.
not all of them have it.
The reason why I'm asking is I noticed at Petaluma High, one of the crosswalks by the gym has the flashing lights, but then the other one by Sea Wing, where Sea Wing, there's a crosswalk, but there's no lights. And so, and I've also noticed, I'm wondering about McNear as well, because
Sure, it's all lighted.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't
It
been
has
there.
been.
I haven't been
But
there in a
no,
while.
and it's a good, once we have more of a committee that's, regularly meeting, which we haven't done, then those are questions that should be brought up. I don't know what the priority list is based on.
Thank you.
Okay. And the only other thing was the all-staff professional learning day at PHS, which I've already commented on. It was fabulous. And the on-board meeting with the student board members, which was wonderful. And I just can't wait to work with you. Tonight, you just showed yourselves to be wonderful. So I'm really excited. And that's it for me. Did you go anywhere? Or
I joined you.
You joined me.
I
yeah.
joined you at Safe Route to Schools. I want to thank the city of Petaluma for being amazing partners to the school district, prioritizing many dozens of projects around the schools, repainting crosswalks, implementing new, again, slower traffic. I think they've lowered the speed limit, added new signs in a couple different areas. Around Kenilworth to Corona Creek, they redesigned the street to, again, slow down traffic and to protect bike lanes and pedestrians between the two schools. So hopefully that's going well for our Kenilworth families. So it's a little bit different, but again, it's all about student safety. Also attended the bond oversight a meeting this past week. Want to thank Amanda and the Van Pelt team again for reviewing projects and I think answering questions and following up with concerns from both the community and board members.
Did you have anything?
It was something, but I'm going to bring it up in future business. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And I did not ask the student board members because you just started, but this would be the time when you would report on anything that you've been doing that you think would be interested in or that your site is doing. So if you have anything off the cuff that you'd like to present to us, this is your time. Yeah, Chloe.
I'm currently working with Miss Noon to revitalize the Student Advisory Council that last year's rep, Jessica Dodson, had. We're hoping to get started soon, so I'll be able to bring a lot more direct student feedback to the table.
And didn't you already have some student feedback?
I did, yes. I got quite a bit during my gov class today. We have a lot of students who are very interested in certain policies. I don't know if you guys have heard about the cell phone policy. A lot of people are, for some reason, very interested in it. So I got a lot of student feedback on that.
And that's really exactly, the kind of thing that we'd love to hear. Yeah. And it's fun. Okay. All right. That is it on the report on the activities and correspondence. And so now we have future business. Any future business? Joanna.
So it's related to one of the events I attended. We'll put on. It was part of a training for my day job that actually pays my bills, not the $1 a day that I get for being here. But anyway, and it was focused on the needs of foster and homeless youth in our community. And I just realized that we still have not had an update on our foster and homeless youth. And I know that the North Star Committee is focused on students with disabilities and multilingual learners, but we cannot forget that we're also in differentiated assistance for our homeless population as well. And I did meet with another Anna Maria, actually from Home First. And she was just talking about how she really wants to use our district as an exemplar because over the past 2 years, we've worked together to implement a lot of policies to increase our identification of homeless students, but there still needs to be those next steps so that we can get out of differentiated assistance. And I would just like us to put more focus on the students or just some focus on them. Because again, like the state has recognized us as not meeting their needs. And it's in the LCAP. The LCAP spoke to the North Star Committee being focused on them. So I would just like to see, I guess, does not have to be a whole big presentation, but just some updates along the way about how we are meeting the needs of them, especially since, again, as I mentioned, it was in the LCAP. So that was one. And then the other one is, we heard about, the nursing staff and the health needs of the students. I don't know what this would look like, but at some point talk about how, we can meet all of the health needs of the students with our reductions in nursing staff. If that means, how does that look with us making those reductions, with health techs or I guess just overall some type of reassurance or just a plan moving forward. So those are my two things.
Actually, that was one of the questions I wrote down when the nurse was talking to us about, are we short on health techs because we haven't been able to hire them, or is it financial?
It's about future business.
Yeah, it is. No.
a third point, I would like to have that conversation. In our, policies on positions to bring back, nurse was number 2. And I know we've had staggered, in different pots of money that we can bring back, but want to continue if with the, I would say financial update in early September, whether we do have the additional funds to bring back or to again add a 0.5 position back on the nursing side of things to ensure that our students' health and safety are met. Because it's a drastic reduction compared to last year.
Excellent. Anybody else? Is that a hand?
President Cloud, I have something.
Yes, Davina.
So just wanted to update, when we were doing the, planning of the agenda, just wanted to follow up with the board that we have moved, an update, excuse me, about AI to our September meeting. It is the September 15th meeting. So that will be scheduled, in my last communication, it was later. So that's September 15th. And then we will also have an update on September 15th around our current and future practices around recruitment, retention, and hiring practices in order for us to really strive towards a representative and diverse workforce.
Davina, is that about, does that include technology when you're talking about AI? Because that was something we had discussed about screens, and will that be part of that discussion?
Let me get back to you on that because we also have other updates around bring your own device and those kinds of things. Yeah, I'll get back to you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, it is not even 8 o'clock, and I believe we are adjourned.
Yeah.